Am I the a-hole for getting a newly married couple kicked out of the apartment? I, male 23, rented an apartment with a guy named Chris. He's not a college student unlike my previous roommates. Reason I chose to rent with an older guy is because of the situations college students put me in and being irresponsible. Not everyone, but that's my experience. He had a girlfriend at the time that visited 2 to 3 times a week. From what I understand, her family weren't approving of their relationship. One evening, Chris came and brought what I thought was, his girlfriend, and he told me they just eloped and are now married despite his wife's family's disapproval. She brought a small bag with her. I asked if she was going to live with us. He said yes. I asked if the landlord knew and whether any changes were added to the lease since she's living with us. He said the landlord allowed her to stay till she starts working and pay for rent. I said congrats, then I went to my room. The next day, I noticed Chris's strange behavior. He started asking me to eat breakfast outside and let them have privacy, asking that I keep my laundry in my room, asking that I stop bringing certain foods into the kitchen and fridge because his wife's allergic to them, and no more friends over. I was so annoyed, especially after I got called names whenever I entered the apartment because I walked in on them doing it in the living room several times. I had to exit the place quickly, and they kept me out for like 3 hours once. Chris was livid and said since my parents didn't do a good job at teaching me what is appropriate and what's not, he thought he'd make a list of places I'm not allowed to go into the apartment during certain times. Example, not using TV after 12, not using the bathroom after 12, as his wife might be dressed in revealing clothes, till I talk to him first. What time I'm allowed to return to the apartment, and when I'm allowed to use appliances and such. I flipped out and asked him what the hell am I paying rent for then? Chris said if I respect myself enough, then I'd stick to these new arrangements. Yeah, well, I had enough respect for myself to go talk to my landlord. So I told him everything. It turned out that he didn't know Chris's wife moved in. He had an argument with Chris and gave him an eviction note to leave the apartment. Chris came back and said he couldn't believe I did this to him. Said he thought we were friends. I remained quiet, till his wife came yelling that they're screwed, that they don't have money to rent elsewhere and family won't take them. I kept shrugging while Chris was screaming at me asking if I'm happy with a newly married couple being homeless because of what I did. Chris been guilting me, saying I should have talked to him about it. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You're absolutely not the a-hole. Chris seems to think that he can dictate the happenings of the apartment 100% when he only pays, presumably, 50% of the rent. He also obviously lied to you, telling you that the landlord said it was okay. Never have I had a landlord, even the most lenient ones, just allow another tenant without adding them into the lease. It's cute they thought you were friends when he so blatantly disrespected you. This is manipulation. They're homeless because of his doing, not yours. Hands up if you want to bet Chris told girlfriend/wife that the apartment was his and OP was leasing a single room, so of course he can lay down the law. Probably. Sounds like he's trying to be the big man on campus, which ultimately translates into a-hole, given that he has no ground to stand on. Not a-hole. You didn't do anything to them. They did it to themselves. Their rules were ridiculous. And you absolutely don't have intercourse in a living room you share. They were the ones breaking the rules set forth by the landlord and lease he signed. And he lied to you about it. You are not the a-hole here, but Chris and his wife are. Yeah. The couch wasn't available the entire time since Chris said didn't feel comfortable with me sitting on it since his wife sits there all the time. Suddenly, I'm seeing why her family didn't approve of this relationship. Chris seems to be controlling idiot. Don't sweat over it. You did nothing wrong. Not the a-hole. Chris sounds like an entitled moron. Nothing to feel guilty about at all. You didn't do anything wrong. Your only mistake was the initial concession to let the wife in without conditions. Hard to see a situation like this coming though. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister that she can stay with me but her fiancé can't? I, 28 female, am a single mother of 5 kids. It's a lot, but I managed. It's helped by the fact that some of the kids are older and I have had a lot of help. I couldn't have done it alone. My sister's 33 female partner, 34 male, can be crappy about it. He thinks he has some sort of moral high ground due to my kids, and him being older than me means he treats me like he knows better than I do. He and my sister are facing eviction soon, and they want to stay with me. I've said that she can stay, but he can't. I don't want him around my kids when it's a family event that we can leave anytime. Why on earth would I want him living with us with no escape? My sister was upset, but ultimately accepted. However, she has asked if I would change my mind more than once. I said if he found somewhere else to stay the majority of the time, we would negotiate on him coming over a certain number of nights per week, which she accepted. Her partner, on the other hand, is hopping mad. Says I'm being cruel, using my power over him to humiliate him and punishing him for his opinions. He even compared me to a tyrant. I've said that if I was on the fence before, there's no way he's allowed here now, and said that while I was open to him coming over if my sister is staying with me, I now don't want him coming over at all. My sister has said that this is unfair, and she should be allowed to see her boyfriend, and that I'm not her mother. I can't control her, and that if she's going to be paying rent, we agreed she'd give me $100 per month for food, bills, and a guest room. Then she should be allowed guests over. Am I the a-hole for not letting him stay over? Info. My sister has not moved in yet. We're still just talking through everything. And I have a very good security system, so she cannot realistically sneak him in or anything like that. Not the a-hole. And honestly, if your sister is going to be that way, tell her she's not welcome either. She's a guest in your home, and it is not her house, even if she's giving some money a month. Not the a-hole. And I'm seriously more worried about your kids. His attitude to you is bad enough, but kids pick up on this crap. Please, please do not let him near them, for the love of God. What happens if he's at home full time and you have to leave unexpectedly to get something done? Would you trust him with them while you do day-to-day things like grocery shopping? Please don't subject them to this. You're right to exclude a boyfriend. He sounds like a tool. Based on your sister's comments about entitlement based on rent, I'd reconsider allowing her to stay. After a month, it will be, my boyfriend has a right to stay here as I want because I pay rent. This sounds like you're setting yourself up for trouble. Tell them to go somewhere else, and check their attitudes and entitlement if they expect people to want to help them in future. Not the a-hole. $100 a month works out to $3.28 a day. It's laughable. If her boyfriend weasels his way into the house, the rent is further reduced to $1.64 per day for each of them. This is supposed to cover food and utilities too. Not the a-hole. It's your house and you get to decide who is and isn't allowed in it. Secondly, if this person is like this to you, what kind of things is he going to say to your kids? You've absolutely done the right thing telling him no. And if your sister doesn't like it, she can find somewhere to live, paying a load more than $100 a month, and she can have who likes visit. Thankfully, he's got the sense to not say anything to the kids directly. But my oldest, a teenager, has overheard some things he did not appreciate, which he now holds against the fiancé. I don't doubt that if he was living here for however long they need to get back on their feet, he would say more things that the younger kids may overhear. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my brother's girlfriend that, all said and done, she's still a guest in our house? My parents have an apartment in San Francisco that they generously let me and my brother share while we're working out here. They own it. We split utilities, and we've been living here for the past 2 years. I had it to myself for another year or so before my brother joined me. Recently, that is for the past 4 to 5 months, my brother has found himself, as he often does, with a rather quirky girlfriend who just doesn't have a sense of boundaries. When she's not stoned and pretending to do art, she's constantly acting like she's the in-house interior decorator that we hired, constantly giving suggestions and unsolicited feedback. Worse, she's really taken to being comfortable here, and is practically living out of my brother's room. I've caught her lounging in the living room topless or in just a robe, walking around naked from my brother's room to the bathroom. He uses the guest bath, I use the main one attached to my room, hanging her bra and panties to dry on various pieces of furniture. It's just really bad and trashy. I've told him to keep her in line, but he refuses to listen. He's totally smitten with her, and I can't blame the guy. I think the last straw was finding her in her panties on my favorite chair, reading through my mail stash picking out. What? Her mail that is starting to come here now? I yelled at her and said I would appreciate it if she were to give our place a little respect, and realized that all said and done, she's still a guest in our place. And until she at least engaged to my brother, there's no obligation to consider her family, you know? She huffed a little and then said I should mellow out or something, but I was done talking to her and stormed off. Am I the a-hole here? I'm at my wits' end dealing with her. Edit. Ages. I'm male 25, he is male 23, and she's female 22. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. She's getting her mail delivered there? Kick her the hell out. Not the a-hole. She could use mail been delivered as proof she's living there. You need her out ASAP. But ultimately, it is your parents' decision, and you need to let them know before it becomes a legal issue. Info. How many days a week is she staying over? Is she there when your brother is not? Does she pay anything towards the bills? Not the a-hole. Unless / until your brother wants her to officially move in, she's a guest and should be more respectful. I'd ask your brother why her mail is coming there. Have they low-key moved her in without telling you? Yeah, I don't know if she actually got mail or is just pretending. I'm gonna bring it up with the parents. I didn't want them to get in our mess, but the deal was we split utilities and that's it. Not the a-hole. Don't get stuck with a squatter claiming squatter's rights. Kick her out quick. Never thought about this. I second this. I live in San Francisco too, and tenant protections here are insane. If she is getting mail and has been her primary residence for more than 30 days, she might have established tenancy, and getting her out will be a nightmare. Talk to your parents immediately and kick her out. If need be, you might need to get a landlord attorney. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for taking money from my boyfriend because I did something dumb with my car keys? So for starters, I don't currently have a license, so I know for a fact I did not lose these keys in question. I have not driven at all this year. The other day, I realized my car's inspection was out, and I asked my friend at a car dealership if he could come get it and get it checked out, which he said sure. So I start looking for my car keys, and I have 2 sets of them. Both are gone, and my boyfriend insists he didn't take them, even though he's the only person who can drive, and does drive that car a few times a week. After hours and hours of searching, I finally find one of the keys in his pants that went through the washer and dryer, and won't start the car at all. The second set is still nowhere in sight. So basically, after a week of searching, I had to get the car towed to the dealership and purchase 2 new sets of keys to be programmed. It cost a fair bit of money, and my boyfriend feels that since it's my car, it's my problem. I ended up taking half of the cost from cash in his wallet. Part of my annoyance is he did the same thing a year or 2 ago with my truck. Lost both keys. Thankfully, I was able to prove to the dealership what happened and that I owned a truck, and they were able to get me a new key without the truck being towed in. I paid for both new keys that time myself. Am I the a-hole for taking money like that from him? I also want to add I'm currently working part-time from home due to the loss of license, while he works full-time. I make less than he does now, but I still pay my half of the bills. Edited to add. Since apparently within the 5 minutes of being posted, I'm being accused of making horrible life choices and being a drunk driver. I'd like everyone to know I have epilepsy and had a seizure at the end of December, which requires my doctor to take my license for a minimum of 6 months. This is why I'm working part-time now, because I can't drive to a job and my doctor wants me to use this time to recover properly. What the hell? Not the a-hole. You should be paying the full price. If you're not using your car, honestly, just sell it. He's proven himself twice now to be responsible with your property and just not have common decency or respect for you and your property to replace what he lost. Are you going to wait for this to happen a 3rd time? Either don't let him drive your car or he has one of the 2 keys, and if he loses it, he needs to pay to replace. Well, I have epilepsy and am within the time frame of being licensed still. I'm hoping to be able to drive again relatively soon, which is why I still have the car and truck. If this turns out to be a longer problem, I'll probably consider selling them. I agree with you though. I've started keeping the secondary sets in my nightstand because of what happened with my truck, but apparently he went and looked at backups when he lost the first set and never told me. So he essentially stole your keys, lost them, then expected you to pay? Waste man. He owes you the full price and a genuine apology. Yes, I'm sorry I didn't mention that before. These keys have been in my nightstand since the truck issue, and I rarely need them because I always hang the main keys back up. To be honest, I don't even know when the secondary sets went missing because I haven't driven in so long. I could have sworn he just drove the car to work last week, so it had to be relatively recently this all occurred. Info: why are you still together? His inability to accept small responsibility is now causing you to steal. Trust me, I've been asking myself the same thing recently. I feel like breaking up over car keys sounds super silly, but I don't think it's particularly fair for me to be paying about $700 myself, and need to pay for my half of the bills because of something he did.
Future ex-fiancé is angry because I don't want to share my son's money. Original post. I, 35 female, met my fiancé 2 years ago. My son, 4, gets on well with him. And my ex-husband, my son's father, also likes him. Now to the point. 3 years ago, I won a large sum of money in the lottery. Not millions, but enough for a nice life if I work normally, and a good start for my son later. 75% went into a savings account that my son will have access to when he's 21. My fiancé always thought he had plenty of money and never let me correct him. I insisted on a prenuptial agreement, and for that the finances were disclosed. Now the amount in my son's savings account is about 5 times more than anything my fiancé has. Completely enraged, he left the lawyer's office and ignored all calls for 2 days. For me, that was the end of the relationship, and I wrote to him saying that he could have the ring back. A week later, he was at the door. He would love me, but was in shock and now wanted details of where the money had come from. He also told me that he had a 5-year-old daughter from a previous relationship, and that it would only be fair to split the money so that his daughter could also benefit from it. He sees it as justified, as I got the money through luck and not through performance. I gave him back the engagement ring and kicked him out of my apartment. Since then, I've been getting messages from various social media profiles and cell phone numbers that I would be the a-hole who is ruining his daughter's future. I only found out about his daughter that day. I never even saw any photos or anything like that in the past years. Edit. I probably have some explaining to do. In my country, lottery winners are never revealed. Sometimes they say in which region a ticket was bought, but never more. Apart from the financial security for my son, there is no sign of the win in my family. I used my part of the win to pay off debts and bought myself a car. Neither new nor anything special. We live in the same rented apartment, and I still have my job that pays the monthly bills. I treat myself to a 2-week vacation in Australia once a year, but never in luxury. My son wears Temu clothes. He loves the designs, and I don't have any designer stuff myself, and always wear my clothes up. So there was never any sign that my fiancé was a gold digger. On the contrary, I had to fight for him not to keep inviting me to dinner or paying for weekend trips. I mostly turned them down. I grew up in a financially unstable family, so I was always very concerned about being frugal. My son's savings account is also closed to withdrawals before his 21st birthday. You can put money into it, but you can't take it out. And even then, only he is allowed to do so. I also will inform and prepare him for that moment. He will not be lost and alone with that. He also getting $20 per month. He can do with that whatever he wants. And even now he can save and think about. So 21 is a realistic age. Now for the top comments before reading the update 2 months later. Not the a-hole. You did the right thing breaking things off. Stay broken up. This dude will ruin your life otherwise. Yes, for me this relationship is over. I'm just shocked at the games he's playing now. I still haven't found out whether he really has a daughter or whether he made it up so he could disappear with half the money. Neither keeping his daughter a secret nor making one up to get half your money is a desirable action in a fiancé. I'm glad he's now your ex. You knew this guy for 2 years, got engaged and didn't know he had a daughter? And he's upset that you didn't mention your son's money? Well, I tried to tell him about my finances. He never wanted to know. He always were kind of, yeah, I'm the man. You don't have to worry. Another red flag. Finances are one of those major things that you always need to have a good long conversation about when things get serious. If he was brushing off that conversation, there was something shady going on with his own finances. Like he doesn't nearly have the funds he presents himself as having. I don't care if the man is going to be supporting me. We need to know where we both are with finances and debt. He needs to know if he's going to be assuming responsibility for your car note, your house note, your credit card debt, your student loans, or if you have some massive pile of funds he won't be able to touch. Or if he really won't need to be the man because your family is fabulously wealthy. Now for the update. Hello everyone, thank you for your support on my original post, and sorry for the long wait for an update. After receiving many of your tips, I took my son to his grandparents, informed the police, and also my boss. Unfortunately, the police can't do much in my country as long as he hasn't committed a crime against me. Harassing me on the phone and begging for money doesn't count as a crime. I informed my boss mainly because my ex-fiancé works for a company that we deal with almost daily. That's how we originally met. In recent weeks, there have been many attempts by his friends and family to contact me, all of whom wanted to convince me to give him the money. But every time I asked about his daughter, they hung up. When my ex-fiancé showed up at my workplace, he normally didn't have to after getting a promotion. My boss immediately called his company and explained that if he took one more step in my direction, all contracts would be canceled due to their unacceptable behavior. This led to a meeting with my ex-fiancé's boss, my boss, and me. I didn't tell them every detail, but when it came to the money, his boss explained that my ex-fiancé actually wanted to buy a large stake in the company and was allegedly just waiting for the loan to be paid out. This made it clear why he wanted my son's money so badly. My ex-fiancé is a highly respected employee at his company, which is why his boss was reluctant to fire him, especially since it probably wouldn't have improved my situation. Similar to the police, his boss considered it bad behavior, but not a criminal offense. At the same time, my company is a very large client for them, and sweeping the whole thing under the rug wouldn't help either. After a few days, I received news that my ex-fiancé was being transferred to another branch of the company, several thousand kilometers away from me. The company's purchasing department also clearly rejected his proposed buy-in. Afterward, I found out via social media that my ex-fiancé actually has a daughter. A friend was still following him on Instagram to keep an eye on him, and when she checked his tagged posts from the last 6 years, she noticed his ex. A look at her profile showed a girl of the specified age. I contacted her, and she willingly explained how much he had wanted a child, and how when the ultrasound showed it was a girl, he left her. He broke off contact with the mother during the pregnancy and willingly gave up all his rights and obligations as a father. She is now in a happy relationship, and her husband loves her daughter. She never asked my ex-fiancé for money. Following your advice regarding the savings account, I contacted our financial advisor and can now say that I owe you an apology. It is indeed a trust fund. I just hadn't referred to it as such until now, as it is mainly called a savings account in my country. But yes, it is a trust fund in the American sense. I discussed with my ex-husband, the father of my son, once again how we would handle the payout. Thanks to your tips, we've now decided on a staggered payout from ages 21 to 35, so that he has contributions for several stages of his life. The amount at age 21 has been chosen so that it can be used for college, but at the same time, it won't be devastating if he squanders it. My question about AITA was mainly because there were actually many people in my circle who called me that because I persuaded my ex-fiancé to sign a prenuptial agreement. But for me, a prenuptial agreement was important for several reasons. 1. To secure my son's money. Now I know he wouldn't have been able to get his hands on it. 2. I started a small business in addition to my main job. Nothing big at the moment, but it's still mine. 3. I'm saving money so that I can eventually realize my dream of owning a house in Australia, and I didn't want to lose that money to him in a divorce. In retrospect, I can see how many red flags I overlooked on his part, and I will definitely be more careful in the future. Thank you for your support, also via DMs. Protecting your son's future doesn't make you the villain. It makes you the only one in his corner, while everyone else tried to cash in. Agree, she did exactly what any real parent should do. The way folks tried to guilt her for protecting her kid is actually wild. As a fellow Australian, I'm not sure what lazy police officer told you harassing calls don't equal a criminal complaint, but they are wrong. You can absolutely lodge a formal complaint against him if you have a record of all the call logs, and while it may not lead to charges and court, the police can make a visit and tell them to stop. You can also inform your phone company about it if it continues. I live in Central Europe, and unfortunately, things are very country-specific here. He didn't threaten me, blackmailed me, or anything like that. He made a heck of a lot of phone calls, yes, and tried to persuade me, but nothing that could lead to a court order, according to the police or my lawyer. He didn't show up at my door, and when he showed up at my work, it was the first time I had seen him in weeks. Good on you, OP. You're being a great mother. Have you looked at the Australian housing market? It's brutal and keeps growing. You might want to consider buying ASAP before it gets out of your reach. The plan is to save for another 15 years or so. I can't just now emigrate to Australia because of my son. He loves his father, who is very present in his life, and I don't want to drive a wedge between them. But I don't want to give up my son either, so we'll wait until it's clear where the future will take him. Next story. Am I the a-hole for wanting to break up with my boyfriend because of his niece? My boyfriend, 33, has a niece, 10, whom he has been helping raise since she was 6 months old. I was told her mom and dad were not involved. When we first decided to get serious, I knew about his niece and his role in her life, but I didn't realize the extent of it. When I first met her, she was a nice kid, but the second time I met her, it was terrible. We went to the aquarium and she wanted an ice cream. When we sat down so she could eat, my boyfriend shared a funny video with me from his phone. After watching it and laughing, I turned and looked at his niece. She had thrown her ice cream down on the table and was crying. He asked her what was wrong, and she looked at me, then back at him. Right then, I knew this would be trouble. After he calmed her down, he basically ignored me the rest of the time to keep her happy. She had started crying because he showed me a video and not her and felt left out. After we dropped her off, he tried to apologize, and I told him I was left feeling uncomfortable. I felt like a bother to them, like a third wheel. He told me he was just trying to make the rest of her time there happy for her. I ended up letting it go, but told him he needed to talk to her and let her know I wasn't going anywhere. He agreed. Fast forward a few months later, my boyfriend and I planned a trip out of town so he could run in a marathon. He then told me his niece wanted to come. I asked if that was a good idea since I hadn't seen her since the aquarium incident. He said he talked to her and just wanted to have a good weekend. I agreed and decided to give her another chance. We picked her up that morning, and not even an hour into the trip, she was already crying. She cried most of the day, so his attention was, of course, on her. I tried to be sympathetic and let him do his thing, but I noticed that anytime he showed me any attention, she would start crying. I bought us tickets to watch a movie she had been asking for, but when we got there, she cried and didn't want to watch it. That night, she had agreed to sleep in her own bed, but when she saw my boyfriend lie down next to me, the waterworks started again. She didn't want him laying with me. He then jokingly told me, "Hey, I'm gonna sleep with crybaby in her bed, okay?" I was fuming because I knew it was intentional. She had been sitting there fine until she saw me and him together. I was furious because instead of talking to her, he gave in. The next day at the mall, he and his niece were holding hands, walking in front of me, basically leaving me out while they chit-chatted and enjoyed each other's company. By the end of the day, my boyfriend asked, "What's wrong? You've barely spoken a word to me." As if I could. Later on, when he was finally talking to me and showing me attention, his niece kept interrupting us. I knew once again what she was doing. Now that the trip is over and I've replayed everything in my head, I want to end this. However, I know he's going to throw it in my face that she's a little girl who has abandonment issues and is just scared of losing him. I understand that, but I don't agree with how she's being raised. I don't think she should be getting her way every time she cries for something. Am I being harsh? Does that make me the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Your boyfriend will just have to wait until niece grows up before he can get serious with anyone. You don't have to put up with this. And don't be afraid of him throwing it in your face. You just need to stand up to it and say no. This is final. I'm not interested in living in this kind of scenario. As if his niece won't continue to ruin his chances of finding a partner well into adulthood. And no, I'm not blaming the kid at this point. The blame is squarely on the boyfriend for indulging this behavior. Who the kid grows up to be if this type of behavior continues to go unpunished remains to be seen, however. Not the a-hole. It sucks because he's failing his niece more than anything by enabling her and not setting boundaries. There are ways to include her without excluding you, and your boyfriend can't seem to understand that. Honestly, it wouldn't be worth it to me to stay to try to figure it out. Life is short. Completely agree. He probably would throw it back in your face, but that's even more of an indicator of how he handles conflict. Also, if you guys were to stay in the relationship and possibly have kids, he isn't showing that he has good boundaries. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting my partner to sniff test my crotch anytime I've been out? Okay, I know this sounds ridiculous. It is ridiculous. I can't believe I even have to write this, but my partner, 25 female, insists that I, 26 male, would only have a problem with her wanting to smell my genitals when I come home if I were trying to hide certain smells. We've been together 4 years, lived together for 2, and there's no history of cheating. But she's always been quite jealous and paranoid. Over the past 7 to 8 months, however, it has gone crazy. She checks my phone constantly, which, fine, there's nothing to hide, but it does feel invasive. If I'm out with friends, she tracks me and expects me to check in constantly. If I take too long to reply, she accuses me of all sorts. If I'm late home, she thinks I've been with another woman. But about 8 months ago, this started. I had been out with a few mates at the pub. Unfortunately, my phone died, and I actually cut my night short because I knew she'd be going crazy. I got back, and straight away, the questions and accusations were flying. After explaining myself 5 or 6 times, she suddenly stopped, stood in front of me, then got on her knees and started pulling down my trousers. Honestly, I thought I was about to get lucky for a second, but what actually happened is she started to sniff my crotch and seriously examine my genitals for signs of sex. WTF. She later apologized for it and said she was just upset, but now she's been doing it on a weekly basis. When I tell her it's crazy and she needs to stop, she insists I would only mind if I thought she might smell something. She also said I'm welcome to sniff hers anytime I want to, but yeah, no, that's just freaking weird. She won't accept that it's batshit crazy behavior, so I'm hoping Reddit can help me show her that it very much is. So please, for the love of God, tell me, am I the a-hole because I don't want my girlfriend constantly sniffing my crotch to check if I smell like sex? It's really the level of paranoid that is pathologically unhealthy. Would be a deal breaker for me personally. Honestly, it's getting to that point. She doesn't think she needs therapy. It hasn't always been this bad, and aside from this, she is amazing and I love her more than anything. But I don't know what to do anymore. Not the a-hole. This is abuse. Read this back as if a man was doing this to their partner. Then ask yourself why you are putting up with this level of abuse when everyone here would tell a woman going through this to run as fast as they could out of that type of relationship. She seems to think she'd be absolutely cool with me doing it if it was the other way. I assure you that if this was the other way, you would be facing SA charges and DV charges. Do you see what I'm getting at here? Seriously, run. I am a woman who has been in abusive and controlling relationships. This will only get worse. Get out now. I would honestly, seriously consider therapy for yourself to understand what you've been through and to contact the police. This is not okay. This is abuse. She is perpetuating abuse towards you, and you need to put yourself first here, not your abuser. Yeah, to be honest, I think I've definitely been downplaying it all in my head and making excuses for her. I really wasn't expecting some of the comments I've been getting. I know how bad it is. I just really do love her. And apart from this, when things are good, they're great, you know. I'm really not sure what to do.